I've been in a bit of a funk. If you weren't able to tell by last week's video that I did entirely horizontally laying down, I've been in a bit of a mood. So today I'm going to talk about some of my tactics for getting yourself up and moving again when you're in a mildly depressive funk. This isn't meant to be a recommendation of how to treat depression on your own. And I know when I'm depressed and scrolling through things on YouTube, one of the things that I hate is just seeing a bunch of videos that tell me to do a bunch of things to get over my depression because I don't want to do anything. I just want to lay there on the couch and be alone. But I'm going to try to tell you the tactics that I use to trick myself into doing things when I am feeling mildly depressed. And being in kind of a funk is something that happens to me. I'm probably genetically slightly predisposed to it, and then I also live in Oregon, which has no sunlight for 9 months of the year. We are literally the vitamin D deficiency nation. So when I'm depressed, I'm not talking about like the I saw a sad movie or a sad thing happened to me kind of depressed. I'm talking about like the inexplicable lack of motivation to do anything. Even getting out of the shower, I'll get there and I'll stand there and think, I'm so wet, I'm dripping everywhere, but I won't want to do anything about it. And I'll just want to sit there and be sad about the fact that I'm wet, but not want to do anything about it. That's the depression I'm talking about, that like absence of feeling. And now what I have is mostly mild depression, probably brought on by the lack of sun. So often what triggers one of these for me is actually a physical illness. So I'll end up getting a cold or something like that and need to slow down work. And then I'll be frustrated that I'm behind on work, and then I'll start to feel so behind that I get completely overwhelmed and I don't want to do anything. And my brain will just kind of turn off. I'll just want to kind of stay on the couch in my depression nest. Sometimes the only time I'll leave my apartment is to pick up all of the packages that I've gotten from trying to shop away the hole in my consciousness. So when I need to get organized and get myself out of a depressive rut, here are some of the things I do. First thing I do is I try to clean. And the good news is that when I'm in a depressive rut, I usually just stay in my depression nest. So only about 3 square feet of my apartment is really very dirty at all. One of the things that makes my depression and anxiety worse is I tend to overblow things and think they need to be the best version of everything. This is generally a problem that I have, but it's much worse when I'm unmotivated because I think, oh, if it isn't the best version, I shouldn't do it at all. So what I will try to do is I'll try to trick myself into just doing a little bit. So the way I'll start trying to clean is I'll tell myself, just get up off that couch and clean one dish. You don't have to clean all the dishes. You just have to get one dish clean. And realistically, once I'm over at the sink cleaning the dish, I realize, I might as well clean the other dishes. Or I'll set a timer and say, just clean for 2 minutes. Just tidy this area for 2 minutes. And it can help to have someone coming over because I usually don't want them to see my shame nest. And then cleaning kind of allows me to see that I can make progress on something, even if it is just that my sink no longer has dirty dishes in it. It also makes me feel better about my environment because one thing that happens to me is I'll sit on my nest in the couch and I'll look around and I'll think, oh, you're such a mess. And it feeds into this negative self-loop I have. So I just start by cleaning. And then the next thing I do is I actually try to get myself dressed up. So I'm a radio host and I work from home 4 days a week. So literally I don't have to look good for anyone. And if I am depressed, I will stay in my pajamas sometimes until bedtime. So what I'll do is I'll make myself get dressed up just a little bit. And the goal of this is to make myself feel like I'm in work mode. And I might even put makeup on. I'm not very good at makeup, but I find that it kind of can make me feel like I have war paint or I'm putting on a costume. And that can help me take myself outside. I feel like I'm playing the role of someone who has their life organized. And then the next thing I do, and this is sort of where the Instagram hashtag treat yourself comes in, but I try to make my workspace as attractive as possible because literally no one wants to get work done on their desk when it's just a giant mess of stuff. So I'll try to make a work environment of my desk be super attractive instead of being kind of like a nest space. The internet told me that scented candles are treating yourself, so I'll get that. And I actually went and got an orchid when I was filming this video. By the way, none of the footage for this video was staged. I literally filmed myself doing things to motivate myself to go film this video. And one of those things I did was buy myself a little orchid. I've wanted an orchid for years, and I have been having a lot of trouble justifying it, and it was $6.99, so I can afford it. And I decided, let's make this as aesthetically pleasing as possible, so that I'd want to come work at my desk. I'll just try to make it a space that I want to be in, and that means brewing myself a nice cup of tea and doing the kind of things that make myself feel like, okay, you are treating yourself. Then, once I've done all of that kind of prep stuff, which honestly sounds like a lot, and it is a lot when you're depressed, but altogether it only took me like 40 minutes to do all of that in preparation for this video, which really isn't that much when you've spent literal 20 hours laying on the sofa. So the next thing I do is I try to tackle my list, because inevitably what happens is when I'm depressed, I let things fall by the wayside. Avoiding my email is an incredibly big one, and avoiding my mail and just generally letting tasks pile up. And I take my list and I separate it into two things. I often will try to do this on a piece of paper because there'll be a finite space. One of the problems with doing it on my to-do list software is that there's room for infinite to-dos, and I can just get completely overwhelmed. So instead, I'll try to do it on paper or a paper planner. And I make two lists. One is a list of things that I absolutely have to do to keep my job. Obviously, I'm self-employed, so this list is weirdly more fungible for me than it is for a lot of people. But for me, this is going to the radio station, recording the radio show, showing up at speaking gigs, and getting the radio show out every week, and shipping any books that people order. Those are things that I have to do. They're tied to income, and they're very concrete tasks. The other list I make is things that I can put off until I'm feeling better. For me, this is responding to freelance pitches or people that want to be guests on my show, or just generally any extra projects. I tend to make a lot of extra projects for myself. And then I take the things from those lists and I break it down into a timeline list. And the worse I'm feeling, the shorter the timeline I make it. So if I'm feeling really bad, sometimes I will make the list for what do I need to do in the next 2 hours. If I'm feeling slightly better, it can be what do I need to do today. If I'm feeling even better, I can plan a whole 4 days out in advance. The goal is just to deal with the immediate things, because one thing that I have trouble with is I get really overwhelmed and I start to contemplate my entire existence and I trigger an existential crisis, and then I just end up back on the couch under the cat reading fan fiction. And so what this does is it just says, what is the next step? It's a put one foot in front of the other kind of thing. And the very last thing I do is I make sort of like a points list for myself. And these are extra things I can do that kind of make me feel better. They're more maintenance tasks. So this is tidying, this is actually dealing with backlog of emails, but it's also stretching and putting a face mask on and things that just feel too hard when you're depressed, but you know will make you feel a little better. And I try to make them be really easy things that take less than 5 minutes to do. So taking out the trash, washing your face, those kind of things. And I put those on a list, and instead of being a checklist that I have to do, I give myself some sort of extra points. So one thing I use for this is Habitica, which is kind of like a weird RPG software for your to-do list. And it works really well for me when I'm depressed because it doesn't kind of force you to give a due date. You can just get extra points for things. But another way to do that is something like a sticker chart or something like that, where you're just tracking if you do it. and you're giving yourself bonus points rather than penalizing yourself for not getting it done. The goal with these lists is to not get overwhelmed with the number of lists, but to really think about what the immediate actions that you need to take in order to get yourself past this immediate rut. Those are the things that I do in order to just get myself to the next day. And it's a big difference between treatment for depression and just trying to get to the point where I make the next thing. I think one of the things that's hard for me is that I have generally such ambitions, and when I'm depressed, I can't see them. I don't remember what they are or why I cared about them. And the big thing for me is to just try to get past that point. I hope that this video helps you a little bit if you're trying to get out of a depressive rut and make yourself feel a little better. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up below and leave me a comment letting me know how you get yourself out of ruts. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and let me know down in the comments how you get yourself out of ruts. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'm desperate. I'll see you next time.